Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to Monorail Monday. This is episode number 24. 24 episodes of Monorail Monday. If this is your first time joining us, talk a little bit about my time working at Disney, most in the 80s and 90s, some behind-the-scenes stories, some things about how operations work, and things like that. Sometimes we'll bring out a few things like monorail study guides and things like that to show you what it looks like, what the training's like, and things like that. The last couple of weeks, talked a little bit about some of the history that I've got in a scrapbook with a lot of articles from 1990, 1991, the early part of the Disney decade. And that was pretty good stuff. Hopefully you found some of that interesting. A lot of things that were proposed never got built. A lot of weird stuff happened. There were a lot of like small accidents and things that happened at the time. So I've got another little bit of my history in monorails. This is actually something I printed up when I left Monorails. I did. It's tradition that a monorail pilot does what they call a 10-7 spiel, out of service. 10-7's out of service radio code, and it's traditional that you give a little mini speech. And I actually have right here. I had the original 10-7 spiel that I read off. I did not say a 5-minute long. I kept telling them I was going to make an epic radio call that would take the entire Epcot loop before I would be done talking. And the supervisors were quite concerned about this. You know, if something happens, nobody can get through the radio or whatever. Obviously, I was not going to do that, but I wanted them to be worried and just kind of thinking, is he going to say something? So what I said, what I had here is just a short little thing. But I actually typed it out and shared it with everybody. And I also wrote. I used to like to write fake memos, parody memos. Disney would put out an official memo saying, make sure you're not leaning on rails, making a first impression is super important, do not talk to each other, stand at arm's length apart from each other, and stuff. There would be all these very finger-wagging kind of memos. And so I would put out memos that were very similar. Somewhere in the archives I must still have a few of these, because I'd print these out and just distribute them just like they would distribute the actual memos from Disney saying everybody needs to read these, figure out what the new rules are, or whatever the latest thing was. I would also distribute the faux memos, so they would be everywhere. And sometimes supervisors would pick them up and look at them like, when did this come out? This can't be right, can it? Because of course I would put them on actual Disney letterhead so that they appeared official. That was pretty funny. We were all getting a pretty good kick out of it. So another thing I like to do, Mr. David Letterman, very well known for his top 10 lists. I used to like to do top 10 lists or little parody things for our Cycle Times, which is the Monorail newsletter. So I made a top 10 list of things that I will miss about monorail. So I thought I will share that with you right now. Number 10, fireside chats with Supervisor David about my performance concerning shaving, name tag on the outermost garment, white socks, and talking to my friend John while simultaneously not talking to our guests. Yeah, they want you to talk to the guests and not each other, but you're hanging out with your friends, you talk to each other all the time. White socks, you're supposed to wear black shoes, fairly basic black work shoes, and it's supposed to have dark socks. So that every once in a while I had wore white socks. Usually the costume itself was long enough, it covered the socks, nobody really noticed. But supervisors, they noticed and they get a little irritated, and I enjoyed sort of pushing the buttons of some of the supervisors, and a couple of them appreciated it, laughed. Some of them didn't like it very much at all. Definitely had a lot of fun. If I didn't have fun and I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be talking about it and sharing the memories with you. But at the time we worked there, did like to push some buttons and did like to sort of see what we could get away with. There was a lot of that in Monorails, a lot of seeing just how far can we push the line? Can we cross over? Can we step right up to that line? You know, in the theme parks where they say stay behind the yellow line and kids keep sticking their foot over it, we did the equivalent of that in Monorails. Always just kind of sticking our toe over the edge to see how far could we push things. And the top two here are the glorious fun we had rallying to discuss who should be cast member of the month and writing those fabulous witness statements. We're going to talk about number two, the cast member of the month thing here just a second. And the other one, that's, oh man, I'm going to talk about that sometime. I became sort of quite famous for writing long witness statements. When something happened, I filled out a couple of witness statements, and there's a story, there's a lengthy story behind that. We're going to talk about that a little later. Let's talk about the cast member of the month thing. Right at the end of my time in Monorails, they kind of had been talking about doing a cast member of the month for a while, and everybody kind of was like, no, we don't want to do this, no. They finally said, we're going to do a cast member of the month. And we're going to have a committee of like 8 or 9 or 10 Monorail cast members, mostly like leads and trainers and things like that. And there'll be a supervisor overseeing the committee. And then they would have people nominate. You know, there's a form, nominate somebody, explain why they should be the cast member of the month, put it in the ballot box. Then the committee would look at all the nominations. A cast member of the month would be selected. So this is down to getting right into my last month ever in Monorails. Everybody knew I was leaving. I was going to be moving on to working for an airline, become a flight attendant. So it was well known that I was leaving. A lot of people did not like this cast member of the month thing. Everybody kind of saw it as this is just going to be the kiss ass of the month. As I mentioned before, we're all kind of pushing things a little bit. So everybody was just like, screw it. You know, nobody vote. That was the thing. It was like nominate nobody. And I came up with the idea. I said, you know, I pushed a few supervisors' buttons, and they're always a little leery of what Bill's doing. I said it would be very funny if my last month here, I became the cast member of the month. A lot of people jumped on board with this, and so I started getting nominations, and I got a lot of nominations. And I think they said like by middle of the month that they would that would be the end of nominations, and then they would go through and announce the cast member of the month. They got to that point, passed it, no announcement. After a couple of days, they said, well, it's so busy, it's so crazy right now, everything's very hectic. We've decided to extend the nomination period. They extended it longer and said, send in more nominations. And a couple of friends of mine who were on the committee, they said, basically every nomination that came in, there were like one or two for some of these other people. They said there were dozens of nominations, and they're all me. They're all nominating me for cast member of the month. And the supervisor in charge of the committee did not want to name me as the cast member of the month. They thought, well, he likes to push people's buttons. Never had any guest complaints. Never did anything that I get written up over. You know, I was a pretty good cast member, but I did like to push some supervisory buttons. They were just really hoping they were going to get somebody who was one of these Pollyanna folks nominated. Well, they extended the time, but it just meant more of the same. It just inspired more people to continue to submit my name as a nominated cast member. The end result being that I became the cast member of the month in my last month in Monorails. And so I think I got a watch which broke and was wrecked in a flood at the house. So it was a very cool, it was a one-of-a-kind monorail watch. I think they had it done like at the Main Street watch shop. So really sad I don't have that anymore. But I got a watch. I got a special parking spot really close to TTC, between TTC and the Poly. I did not get to enjoy that because I had already left by that time. And the other one was a lunch with the manager or supervisor of your choice. And I was kind of going back and forth. Do I pick one of the supervisors who I've got a really good rapport with? And he would kind of laugh. He's like, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing, Bill. He got my sense of humor. And you know, do I go with this guy? Or do I pick one of these guys who I like really make nervous? You know, that just like really doesn't quite know what to do with me. At last, I was gone. I did not get to decide which of these supervisors I was going to have lunch with. But that's how I became the first ever cast member of the month in Monorails, and by default, because I was the only one that year, cast member of the year as far as I'm concerned. So that was pretty funny. It was sort of like I had a ground root campaign, and it was quite funny. I think at the end they just said, just do it. He's leaving. Just do it. Name that person. We don't want to. If we're going to keep this cast member of the month thing going, let's get this out of the way, and then hopefully people will just start responding normally. Interesting, fun way to go out. Oh, before we go, let's read off that 10-7 spiel here. So this is the final 10-7 spiel that I read on my last day driving monorails. I can't remember what train was the last train I drove. I think it may have been Monorail Coral. Not entirely sure. But I definitely drove my last 10-7. My last lap was on the Epcot loop. It's the longest one, so it always made the most sense. Everybody wanted to take the last lap on Epcot unless you were in a hurry to leave. Here is the last 10-7 spiel I read on the monorails. Attention, attention, all monorail units. Monorail Mr. Bill is 10-7, the highway in the sky, 1051 to 22,000 feet up in the air, flying the friendly skies. Love you all, and we'll never forget some of our greatest moments, like the time I guess it's just not time enough to reminisce right now. But hey, it's been a blast, and I promise an extra bag of peanuts to anyone who flies on my aircraft. Now let's observe a moment of radio noise, since everyone knows I've rarely been silent. And don't forget to vote for Cast Member of the Month. Hope you enjoyed the story, and we'll talk some more monorails next week. Thanks for liking, sharing, subscribing, telling your friends, comment below. Tell us any other stories you'd like to hear, any things you like or don't like, or weird things you've seen cast members do as they're goofing off. I love to hear other stories of what the other cast members have been doing, good, bad, whatever. I like to hear the other perspectives from other cast members and some of the things they've seen and done. And there's a lot of hilarity among all the cast members. So thanks for joining us, and remember, kids, have a good time all the time.